Hello, ladies of the Take Back Your Life group. It is Yolanda Gray. Been a few weeks. Glad to be on live this afternoon, this rainy afternoon on the East Coast. I wanted to come in just to share a few things. Right now, I am using my phone to do this video because I'm waiting to get my new laptop all hooked up and ready to go. We'll have a nice camera and be able to do some pretty good lives. What I wanted to share today was something that was just some from an experience that happened today. I actually, for the first time since March, late February, March, actually went out to a restaurant and had a meal. I mean, that shouldn't be like, so, oh my gosh. But it has been because we have been in our homes and the restaurants have been closed down. And now for some of us in some of the states, we are allowed to go back in and go to a restaurant. And the best part of that was I was with a very good friend of mine who, I've missed all these months as well. And so it was really good to just sit in a restaurant and have a meal like we did in the old days, I want to say. But that also had me thinking about Ecclesiastes. I don't know if any of you have ever really fully read Ecclesiastes. I had not, because when I first started reading it, it just was so depressing. He called us a vapor. He said nothing's new under the sun. He said, we live here and we turn to dust and we die. And I was not ready for all of that. But when I started thinking about it today, I went back to Ecclesiastes 7. And I just want to share a few things. If you've never read it, I read it from the Message Bible, because it really does make a lot of sense to me for are the times that we're living in, our contemporary language. And before I start, just to give you a few tips, before I start, I want to just let you know, if you've never seen me on a video, because I have a couple of new members here, my name is Yolanda Gray, and I am a certified professional life coach and a speaker, and also an author, co-author in 2 anthologies. I love doing workshops and have an upcoming retreat in October. And I love being with women. I work with them to help them elevate to their God-given potential to live life powerfully, confidently, and authentically. And when you learn to do that, and when you come to that place, there is no other place like that, because you are in the grip of His love and you are powered by the Holy Spirit. And there is nothing that you can do, as we're told in the Word. Nothing is impossible with Jesus. So if you don't know Jesus, let's have a chat. But that's who I am. I'm at yolandagray.com, and you can see more about me now there. But I wanted to share this. So I just have a couple of notes because I wanted to share. In Ecclesiastes 7, he starts out with, don't take anything for granted. I thought, wow, right, how often we had taken for granted. I could just walk out. I mean, I was gone all the time. I was at networking groups. I was meeting for friends for dinner. We were going to lunch. I was shopping. I was doing all kinds of things. And then it was gone. And there were a lot of things that I had taken for granted and didn't know. But he does say, starts out with, don't take anything for granted. But most importantly, it was the relationships, a lot of relationships that I've taken for granted. So one of the things that I started doing while we were in this quarantine or this lockdown is I started reaching out to somebody every day. Just someone. It was a text. It might have been a phone call. Maybe I got on a Zoom, and I would just ask how they were doing. It's really amazing when you're sort of feeling down, or you're sort of feeling lonely, or any of those, the feelings that your place of emotion. It's really amazing what happens when you call somebody and just ask them how they're doing. It's something that I learned in recovery, in my early days of recovery from alcoholism. Anytime you get out of yourself, then you can and help somebody else. All of a sudden, your worries do seem to get smaller. Maybe the circumstance doesn't go away, but you have a little more hope because you have been helpful to somebody else. So those relationships I took for granted, I began to reestablish. So that's one of the things. Don't take life for granted. That's what he says straight out the gate in Ecclesiastes 7. Then he said, finishing is better than starting. So we have to finish what we started no matter what. If God has given you an assignment, and I believe he's given all of us an assignment, a kingdom assignment, then just because we have COVID, or just because we have these global happenings, this gloomy and gloom and doom coming out of our network news, which I don't watch anymore, we started something. Everybody started something, was in the middle of something maybe, or maybe you were thinking about starting something. But he talks about having patience in Ecclesiastes 7. He talks about having patience. Finishing is better than starting. So start. If you started something, keep going, keep finishing. And I'm talking to myself as well. It has been a challenge on the days when things look really bleak and like things aren't going to work out. But I know that we have a kingdom assignment, and part of our walk is, a lot of our walk is obedience to that assignment. If you don't know, or you're just trying to figure out maybe, what you would like to do for the kingdom, then let's have a talk about that too, because there is nothing more glorious than being in his will, being aligned with his purpose for you, and being on that path. As tough as it gets sometimes. The work that I do, I was meant to do. I was born to do. I ran from it for many, many years, which is why I didn't start until I was 60 years old. So don't wait that long. You young women out there, God has a special purpose and assignment for you. The other thing that he says in Ecclesiastes 7 is don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. There is no wisdom in longing for the good old days. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it brings you down. If any time, and it could be, not just COVID, but it could be, maybe there was a relationship that you had that was at one time was really good, and then it wasn't. And you just wish that you could go back and make it right, or that, you could figure out what happened. Sometimes we don't know what happened. A lot of times things happen that are not in our control. And we have to let go of that control. And so when we long for the good old days, we miss the good today. We miss what God has for us today. We miss the joy in the present, in the moment. And because of my days of recovery from alcoholism for 34 years, I know what it means to live one day at a time. Tomorrow is not promised. We only have today. So don't long for the good old days. The good old days pre-COVID, or the good old days whenever. I spent a lot of time wondering what happened to my 19-year marriage until it was God released me. It was nothing. There was nothing that I could have done that would have changed that person, because that's what it's all about for some of us. We're thinking that we can change somebody and they're going to somehow, turn into a different person, or that somehow we can continue on the track that we're on, just having a good old time, and that we're not going to pay any consequences for it. And so you have to, don't long for those good old days. The good old days are right now. Today, you have these 24 hours. What are you going to do with them? And then he ends, nothing is certain. And that is for sure. Nothing is for sure except the Lord, except God. And in his word, he tells you what is for certain. And for certain, if you know Jesus, you've got everything that you need. And if you know Jesus, you have a glorious eternity. And if you know Jesus, then you can learn. And it's not just, you don't just get zapped and go, okay, everything's good. And I'm just going to accept what's happening and then bumble my way through life. No. The reason why God created church, his family, is so that we could be with others who have gone before us and could guide us on the path to that joy and peace and fulfilled life, the abundant life, the prosperous life that he came to give us, that Jesus died and came back to give us. And so nothing is certain except for God and his word. And this whole chapter, the whole book of Ecclesiastes is a really marvelous read because it touches on our humanity. Every single one of us we're just human. God understands our humanity. He doesn't expect perfection. A lot of times we expect perfection from ourselves and others, but he does not expect perfection. He knows that we take off sometimes. He knows that we run ahead of him and we go and do what we want to do, and that we have these desires that maybe aren't in line with what he has for us. But when we do get to a place where we recognize, that we are that apart from him in our humanness, we cannot live the total fulfilled life that Jesus came to give us. We realize that we can't do anything on our own power for very long. You burn out, especially if you're not in alignment with his will. And I just wanted to share that because Ecclesiastes speaks to our soul, speaks to our humanity. It speaks to who God already knows we are. And if any of you want to know more about how to learn how to let go, let God, and how to get on that faith trip, because it is a walk of faith with some very clear biblical strategies, please reach out to me. Yolanda at yolandagray.com is my email, or message me right here in Messenger. But let's don't live out these days wondering and in uncertainty. If God's given you something to do, or if you know that you need to let go of something and don't know how to do it, or if you are just struggling with loneliness or doubt, please reach out to me. I'm here. I've been facilitating a group called a Season of Faith, where we're looking at the different areas of our life that have been affected by this change in the life that we took for granted. And so I'm really excited to be back with you in hashtag Take Back Your Life group. And again, my name is Yolanda Gray, yolandagray.com. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It means everything to me. Thank you.